Welcome back to Movie Rewind. Today I will tell you about a crime, drama, thriller movie from 2000 titled Boiler Room. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Seth is a 19-year-old college dropout who now makes a living running an underground casino out of his Queens, New York apartment. Aside from the potential legal ramifications, he does pretty well for himself and has a steady clientele from the local college. One night, after he thought the casino was done for the day, he gets an unexpected knock at the door. One of his old friends, Adam, is at the door with a wealthy associate, Greg. Before closing the door, Seth looks out and sees Greg's yellow Ferrari parked on the curb. The next day, Seth goes to see his parents and younger brother. Seth's father, Marty, is a federal judge. Almost immediately, Seth's father confronts him about dropping out of college. He had actually dropped out 6 months ago, but avoided telling his family until now. Obviously no longer receiving his student aid, Marty is also aware of the casino operation. He tosses several of the custom-made casino chips onto the table, shocking Seth's mother. Later that night, Seth is back at his casino having a drink with Adam and Greg. Greg says that he is impressed with Seth's operation, but that on top of the criminal risk, it's not a sustainable business. He offers Seth a position at his firm, JT Marlin, and says that he will only be an associate until he passes his Series 7 test, and then he's on his own, with limitless earning potential. Adam confirms that it is a great opportunity, so Seth agrees to go for an interview. JT Marlin is not on Wall Street, it's an hour away on the Long Island Expressway. The interview is held in one group in a large conference room. The head recruiter, Jim, is also one of the co-founders of the firm. Jim gives them a short, but to the point spiel, outlining the benefits of working at JT Marlin. He says, point blank, that every employee will make $1 million within their first 3 years of working at the firm. Jim then goes on to explain how the new hire process works. Your first 3 months at the firm are as a trainee. At the end of the 3 months, you take your Series 7 test. Pass the Series 7 and you become a junior broker, opening accounts for your team leader. Open 40 accounts and you're on your own working for yourself, the sky's the limit. Seth decides to join the firm and he is assigned to Greg's team. The trainees are each assigned a stack of leads. Their job is to call every prospect, get them interested in JT Marlin, and tell them that a senior broker will follow up with them. The whole process is designed to get each trainee more comfortable being on the phone. Greg explains that a good broker makes several hundred calls a day. Seth and his family go out to dinner. His mother is very proud of him, calling him a stockbroker, and his brother asks him if he's going to be rich, which makes Seth laugh. Marty also seems supportive, asking Seth questions about the new position. Things take a turn for the worst, however, when he says that the last step is for Seth to shut down the casino. The comment ruins the mood, and Seth excuses himself from the table. Despite his lack of experience, Seth is doing well in his new position. His sales skills are rapidly improving, leading to his first big sale. Seth tells Dr. Jacobs about an exciting new drug developed by MSC Pharmaceuticals. The medication is currently in the 3rd stage of FDA approval, and should be approved within the next 3 months, at which point the stock is sure to rise in price. Once Dr. Jacobs' interest is piqued, Chris, one of the firm's senior brokers, steps in and quickly finalizes the deal. After a night out with some colleagues, Greg drops Seth off at his car in the JT Marlin parking lot. He goes into the office to get his bag, where he hears a noise coming from one of the adjacent rooms. Seth goes over to investigate further, and sees the firm's SEC compliance person putting a file into the paper shredder. He then sees a trash bag full of what appears to be shredded documents. Meanwhile, the FBI, who has been investigating JT Marlin, has Seth's file out on a desk. The lead investigator has identified Seth as a target to assist their operation. He notes that Seth is the smartest amongst all the trainees, and says they're working on a way to get to him. Seth continues growing in his new role, closing multiple accounts per day. However, he remains suspicious based upon his observations the night in the office. He observes the owner of the firm, Michael, with that same compliance person outside the office. When comparing the prospectuses of the stocks they are selling, he notes that several of them list the same names under private equity sources. Abby, the administrator with whom Seth has developed a relationship, interrupts his investigation before getting a little more comfortable on the desk. To celebrate his passing the Series 7 exam, Chris picks Seth up for a night out. Seth takes the opportunity to ask Chris how the firm is able to pay out such high rips for their sales. Rips are commissions paid to the brokers for each share of stock sold, and the rips that JT Marlin are paying are 3 to 4 times higher than any other major firm, which would seem unsustainable. Chris dismisses the concerns, however, saying that Seth is asking the wrong questions. Still unable to ignore his curiosity, Seth goes into the building that he had seen Michael walking into a few days ago. The building, right next door to JT Marlin, was supposed to be completely vacant. Upon entering, Seth sees a large unfinished room, containing nothing but a bunch of phones sitting on the concrete floor. As Seth is walking amongst the dozens of phones on the ground, Michael shows up again with the compliance person. Seth slips behind one of the pillars, and avoids being seen, but he overhears a part of their conversation. Michael is talking about a move and asking how long the process will take, to which the other person replies no more than 2 hours. Seth then goes to visit one of the companies whose stock is pushed by JT Marlin. Upon arriving, the building appears to be little more than an abandoned space. The windows are partially covered with old newspapers, and a dirty sign that reads Med Patent Technologies is leaned against the wall. He then tells Abby about what he saw at Med Patent. He goes on to say that the firm has been selling stock to companies that don't actually exist. Michael has been engaging in what's known as bridge financing, which is when a company raises outside capital, in preparation to go public. Bridge financing is perfectly legal if there's no relationship between the investors and the firm, but in this case, Michael is having his friends pose as the investors for every company, which is why the same names show up on all the contracts. It also explains how Michael is able to pay such high rips on the preferred stocks. He is relying on the JT Marlin brokers to create artificial demand. Once the funds are raised, the brokers stop pushing the stock, and the price immediately plummets. One of Seth's clients, Harry, calls him to find out why his initial investment has been performing poorly. Harry is a purchasing manager and in the process of saving to purchase a house, so this investment is creating a lot of tension between Harry and his wife. Despite now knowing that the company is a fraud, Seth convinces Harry to double down and purchase even more shares at the lower cost. The losses are all but assured, causing Harry to lose the house they wanted, and his wife and family to leave him. Upon doing some of his own research on JT Marlin, Marty also comes to realize that the firm is a chop shop that scams investors out of their money. He confronts Seth about it, calling him a liar and accusing him of ruining people's lives. Marty disowns Seth, telling him he doesn't want to see or hear from him again. Looking back on the situation, Seth reflects upon the irony of it all. He says the illegal business that he had been running was the most legitimate thing he had going. He was able to look his customers in the eyes and provide a service that they wanted. Now, on the other hand, he can't even look at his customers, and he pushed them something they never asked for. Seth goes to see his father and asks for his help before he leaves JT Marlin. Now knowing how the process works, Seth wants to invest in one of the IPOs, but then preemptively sell the shares on their initial price rise. His father initially turns him down, but he later changes his mind. He tells Seth that while he can't participate in his plan, he can at least try to help keep Seth out of trouble. Seth then goes to see Abby, whom he has also informed of his plan. They're sitting in her car discussing it when they're approached by the FBI. Seth is placed under arrest for multiple SEC violations, at which time he also finds out that Abby has been working as an informant for the FBI investigation. Using her sick mother as leverage, the FBI used Abby to help build their case against Seth. Seth is left with no choice but to cut a deal with the FBI. Full immunity for both him and his father, and in exchange he will provide them all of the information they need to make their case against JT Marlin. Despite his deal with the FBI, Seth is determined to at least get Harry his money back. He goes to Michael and depicts Harry as a whale investor who took a big hit on his initial investment. Seth proposes that in order to keep Harry as a client, they should offer him free shares in a new IPO offering. Michael is initially hesitant, however, he agrees to do it, provided the shares are held for at least 6 months. Because it's a pump and dump scheme anyhow, Michael knows that by that point, the shares won't have any value. After getting the signal from the FBI, Seth copies the necessary files. As his final step, Seth needs a senior broker to sign off on the sell ticket for Harry's IPO shares. He tells Chris that the FBI is going to raid the firm any minute now, but that this is their last chance to do right by someone. After some convincing, Chris ultimately agrees to sign the ticket. The movie ends with Seth getting into his car, just as the FBI is arriving to raid JT Marlin. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please leave a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel.